Hello and welcome to another episode of Weekly Comic Reviews. I'm your host, Ian Oxon, otherwise known as the Canadian Comic Geek. And I apologize how late the video is. This past week has been very busy for me, so yeah, sorry about that. Now, let's start off with comics you can easily walk into. And man, there are a lot of comics you can totally buy or don't know like it's December and Christmas. Or maybe it's just me and my comic habits. Uh, anyway, I think I found three good comics you could, chances are, probably walk into. Even if you have, no idea who the characters are. Or if you do, I say that actually makes things even better. So let's get to it. Starting with sorry, mispronounce that. Issue 7 of Astro City. Now, if you're wondering who some of the characters are, well, I should probably give a little just say what Astro City is about. Where basically it's imagine a giant city with every where pretty much almost every superhero in the series lives, and even though you don't recognize them, you can probably recognize the analogs that they represent. For in this issue, it kind of represents the superhero trinity, if that probably most comic book fans would probably all know. I don't know about the love part though. So yeah, so basically they're all analogs of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Here they're called the Samaritan, the Confessor, and Winged Victory. And I actually am intrigued by this because most of the series is if you have been collecting just the newest volume of the series, just because it starts at one, I guess. At most, it basically doesn't really focus on the heroes. It at times it does, but mostly it just focuses on like a random person, like maybe someone who doesn't want to use their powers for good or evil, or maybe it's a henchman, or maybe it's someone who's um, his own business has been destroyed by superhero villain fights over and over again. It just really works. It's mostly characters you don't exactly expect to follow. Yeah, there are superheroes kind of thing. It does depict, and basically I love the whole backstory because it seems like these kind of stories could be series on their own, if that makes a bit of sense to any of you. But I think it's where it works. It's mostly known as one shots, but here it's this little tree because this little story is a four-part story arc. So we're gonna see more of these three heroes having this one adventure where basically why they're all teaming up trying to save the day. Although what it is that is happening is why are they all teaming up is actually a unique story on its own. You see, this isn't like a Samaritan. This isn't focused on Samaritan or the Confessor, which most people would assume oh, so it must be a Superman-like story or a Batman-like story. No, it's focused on the Winged Victory, the Wonder Woman of Astro City. Although here it's how to describe this now. Well, basically, in the series Winged Victory, yeah, you can totally tell she's the Wonder Woman analog, mostly because of her outfit. Yeah, yeah, this outfit is pretty much hell. This is one of the earlier, Astro City. The entire franchise of Astro City is one of the first few one of the first few comic book series that actually has one of the earlier series that started a whole Superman and Wonder Woman are together kind of thing. You know, like the analogs get together, which I think kind of what DC was doing because after such big successes as Squadron Supreme, Astro City, and the Elseworld Tale Kingdom Come. So yeah, it's one of those things you can probably tell what kind of analog who she's based upon. but she's a bit more unique in a sense that, well, basically she doesn't just go out to just be a superhero and saves the day. She goes out of her way to basically build like schools, like in a sense, like women defense classes, which really sounds really noble in a sense. Of course, she's also in the series famously known to be. Um, hope no one um, I apologize if I anger a few of you guys. Basically, she's a little sexist when it comes to saving people. Like, she's mostly just known just saving women, not men. Which I know maybe some comic book fans would seem kind of say, isn't that a bit weird? If you're a superhero, you should just save anyone who's in danger. But yeah, it's kind of a unique something that's a bit unique to the character, which is actually explained in the comic, which I'm actually glad because so far during even since back in the '90s when Astro City was conceived, we have not even heard the origins of Winged Victory. Oh, we've heard like the origins of a few other characters like Samaritan being the Superman. Like we find out what his origins are. We found out what the Confessor like no, yeah, like we find out that Samaritan is basically he's from the future with basically because due to time travel he now has Superman like abilities, and the Confessor is apparently a vampire. Was like the first Confessor was a vamp was just a priest who became a vampire and fights crime. Yeah, comic books are just that wacky and weird. I love it so much. And now, since he died, the new Confessor was basically his sidekick. So yeah, that's something. Here we find out what her powers are basically, and I will spoil this for you if you wish. If you don't want to just skip it, if you want, was basically she's like she basically the reason why she's like maybe a little like the reason what she does, why she builds schools like these training classes, and why she mostly just saves women instead of men is actually quite explained. It's basically she basically she found this like she's given like a power source. Which the power source is like this mystical council known as the Council of Women. I know that sounds weird, um, maybe to some, but basically it was basically like this mystical council like gave her powers, and it's not just them that gives her strength. It's basically every female on the planet gives her strength as long as they believe in her and think she is a righteous hero, which so far, like after reading a few like past issues involving her character, yeah, she's a really damn good superhero. I have to say. The evil plot for this and reasons why like we have all these three characters teaming up is actually quite interesting because you never see this before. Apparently, a supervillain, we don't know who it is. We'll find out probably in later issues in the story arc. Basically, he or she, you don't know who it is, and for a reader, from the reader's point of view, actually no one actually knows, not the reader, not the characters. Basically, somehow discovered her origin and where her abilities come from, and basically he got a bunch of villains together, just a few, just a small few, and basically tarnish her name, and just wow, just wow. Like the writing here is like he really paid attention to some, or just looks at the internet a lot. Basically, it's basically a small group of villains. Basically, went out of their way, made even made evidence, like evidence to prove to prove that basically that Winged Victory could be just someone who's just looking for attention, and like even like stage supervillains like you must go rob that bank and I'll come in and stop you and I'll be heroic and save the day, and basically everyone is everyone like the normal like all like the citizens who of the mostly of the world are basically believing the villains, and she knows like maybe that like someone who's behind all this figured that something must have went wrong. No, sorry, sorry, I missaid that there. My bad. That basically no, so basically someone must be behind this and must have been planning this for years because there's no way in hell someone got this much attention and saying she is evil and doing all these wrong and horrible things, and and basically, well, it's like basically she's now worried because now her like basically abilities could be taken away. That's actually a really good villainous plot. Like basically use the like person's own power source against her in a sense. How to take like this is a very ingenious plot and very ingenious. And I actually can't help but like be reminded of something happening on the internet, which I will not describe because really I really do not have the time nor the care to repeat on this show. But yeah, if you're looking for an interesting story of seeing some familiar analogs teaming up in a villainous plot that is actually quite new and unique, yeah, Astro City issue 7 is definitely a must read. My God. All right, next we're going to a tie-in to the comic book series Forever Evil. And basically, if you haven't been paying attention, and I kind of wonder why you haven't been paying attention, Forever Evil is basically evil versions of the Justice League, called the Crime Syndicate, basically have come to conquer basically conquer the main DC universe. In this case, well, just the planet. Sorry, my bad. Like the Earth. I don't know if it's called Earth 1. Just let's calling it like main DC Earth. And one of my favorite tie-ins is these little one-shot segments, which kind of happen in between the issues, which kind of works because even if you don't read them, you can still get how Forever Evil is going to go. So here is actually quite unique. Sorry, unique in this case, because like like the last issue we kind of focused on, like for here, like we kind of focus like this tie-in series kind of focus on the villains, which I think is quite unique because we don't exactly get to explore much in the Forever Evil series that much. The issue I'm referring to is Justice League issue 25. Yeah, this issue was so late. I'm expecting 26 to come just a few weeks. Like maybe just nearby the end of the month at best. Here this is quite unique because the last issue we focused on it focused on Ultraman, like his origins and just what he's now doing in the main universe. That now he's like tormenting Lois and Jimmy, which is creepy. Here we see a bit more like and the issue before that was just basically the Villains Month time where instead of focusing on the secret society, it just focused on its leader, the Outsider, who turns out to be an evil version of Alfred, Batman's butler. And we find out about his origin. If you've been watching my show, yeah, that basically shows Alfred's how evil Alfred became the Outsider, and basically and showed a bit about info on Batman's evil counterpart known as Owlman. Here we actually learn a bit more about Owlman's origins, where he's known as Thomas Wayne Jr. and he's basically, I think he looks much more like he's in his he's a teenager or at least preteen because it still shows and here Bruce Wayne is the younger brother. Yeah, he still looks 8, kind of thing, but I kind of figured because and it kind of does the retelling of the Batman origins, where his where basically there's a child and his rich parents after seeing Zorro just walking down and instantly getting shot in a dark alley by some common thug. Here There is no common thug. Guess who was howling the gun? Yeah, it was Owlman himself. Yeah, no, he's called Thomas Wayne Jr. Basically, he and Bruce were getting sick and tired of well, their parents squandering their inheritance away due to, well, their own criminal behavior, well, of their dad being a murderous surgeon. Yeah, that's words I never thought I would ever say now. And their mother basically, well, being a shitty parent and just like going like, you all suck, I'm gonna just go and waste all your money. And basically, yeah, they were getting sick and tired of it. So yeah, so Thomas Wayne Jr. brings out a gun. Yeah, he's pointing that gun to them, and although his plan starts to lose focus when Bruce being actually has second thoughts and go, I don't want to do this. And but his plan succeeds thanks to Alfred, who follows them and murders but Thomas's parents and Bruce Wayne. And apparently, on that very same night, he actually gets the idea of becoming, well, Owlman. Like he sees an owl and he thinks he hears him going, "Who are you?" And instead of Joe going the "I'm Batman" thing, he goes, "I'm Thomas Wayne Jr., the richest boy in America." Oh man, that's quite a dark twist. And I complain, going, why can't we have a mini series of this? Come on, DC, you would sell so many books on this idea. Uh, Although we do go back to the present, where basically Owlman tries to convince Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing. Well, everyone knows he's Dick Grayson, so yay. But anyway, well, tries to convince him to join his side. And we actually learned that he actually might be like, yeah, he's still evil, but he actually might be against the crime syndicate. Overall, this is still a fun read. Like this might actually get you into reading Forever Evil, which kind of makes you want to know what the heck's going on and what happens next. Which I think is actually good for a comic to make readers wanting to read more for a tie-in book. And I do like the fact that Owlman's character is more different. Yeah, he loves control, but he's not like his teammate, and yet he will literally stab them in the back the minute he actually like the minute they start showing weakness, that he can actually exploit them. My only disappointment in the entire comic, like just a one disappointment, was basically they show the origins of Plastic Man. Now I do like Plastic Man, and and yeah, it actually sticks like the most basic plot elements to basically show Plastic Man's origins. He's a common crook. He gets hit by by chemicals or some sort of that, I don't know, and basically he starts like developing powers, which he'll eventually use them for good instead of evil. He, so basically, yeah, we basically show a little bit of the origins of Plastic Man, which is not so bad, but it's kind of a hiccup for DC's New 52, because sorry, just frog in the throat. Anyway, shows like if you've been looking at like the New 52 since day one, there was an issue there was a series called Justice League International, which is basically just another Justice League run by the UN. Didn't work out well, and now the series got canceled. In the first issue, when they're looking for team members, because even though the series got canceled, it still had showed yeah, if you've read the series, it kind of connects to what's happening in the main DC universe. If that's the case, then Plastic Man should have already existed. In the first issue, they're going through candidates and going no, we're not going to use Plastic Man. He's too loopy. So if he existed, what the hell was the origin that connects to Owlman? What the hell, people? What the hell? Or am I thinking it's supposed to be the Earth 3 version of Plastic Man? If that was the case, then I'd be fine with it. I'm just getting upset over nothing. But if it is the case, what the hell with that hiccup there, guys? You should don't you look at each other's work? My God. Anyway, that's my own little beef, and I apologize and I'm just whining and complaining about that. But other than that, this is a really fun read. If you did read some of the Villains Month issue, but you haven't collected any of the Justice League books, buy this one just to see more of the origin of Owlman, because surprisingly, he is a very interesting villain. He's more complex than realized. Yeah, he's dark as hell and he actually planned and succeeded in murdering his own family. But my God, he's really an interesting villain. All right, I've been yammering on for a while. We're gonna go to our last comic of the episode. Surprising, and it's a first issue, kids. Surprisingly, this is like I mentioned this before, but it's been going around because due to the artist having a 2 month delay and whatnot, and people were still questioning and wondering who the team members are and like what are their origins? Who are they? Why are they dressed like the heroes or look familiar in a sense that looks like amalgam costumes of previous like versions of this team. The team I'm reading, and I actually quite enjoyed this, by the way. Just giving you a fun tip there. The book I'm referring to is Justice League 3000. Yeah, for here, if you can see this, I apologize if there's a glare. Um, like them just like jumping out of a portal, and I really like the art in this because for one, because the cover and the pages actually match. It's done by the same guy, and I just find this epically awesome. There was like the old artist had a cover, but preferably I like this a bit more. Maybe because it's more appealing to the eye, I guess. Anyway, it is set in the future. Shock of all shocks, I know. And basically, it shows a much darker DC universe. Well, in a sense, like yeah, it's like there's no Legion of Superheroes and there's no United Planets, but it's not like well, the United Planets are now called the Common Folk. I guess I got that wrong. I apologize. And basically, it's in shambles because mostly they've been terrorized for the past 10 years by a villainous group known only as the Five. And basically, they turned their hopes to. Well, basically, the only organization that's actually trying to do something about it is Cadmus. That's right, Project Cadmus. And if you've been watching, like for example, familiar series like Young Justice, it's the group that basically just likes to clone everything they can get their mitts on, like Superman, for example. So basically, and I'm apologizing in advance for spoiling this, that the Justice League here, like the team here, if you're wondering like who are these newer versions of like new guys of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Green Lantern, they're the original. They are the original team, and at the same time, they're not because they're messed up clones. So yeah. Although that's actually quite intriguing because they're trying to make them be exactly like the original as hard as they can, but due to lack of knowledge and due to a big crisis, they lost a lot of information. All the heroes aren't exactly 100%. Yeah, they have some qualities to them, like the Flash and Green Lantern knowing they're best friends and the whatnot, and Batman knowing at least most of his skills and knows how to build new gadgets. That's basically it. So basically, we took all the good qualities out of them, and we got people who are basically assholes to one another, which actually could be a turnoff for fans. I can actually see that because who wants a team that's basically prepared to kill each other? Like who wants to read that? Well, apparently me and other people, I guess, because I'm really hoping this series actually lasts way more. Like it passes the like I hope like the series lasts at least more than 3 years or a year. I guess if it can last more than a year, then this series is actually a success in my book. Like unlike certain other titles I have invested in finding out they've been canceled. Examples: Dial H and Justice League of America's Vibe. But yeah, Justice League 3000 is actually quite interesting because one, Cadmus is actually now more evolved, and there's a lot of backstory that makes you want to know more. That Cadmus is now like has way more power than they normally should, and that the Green Lantern Corps is gone pretty much, and it's pretty much the most heinous group in the universe since Nazis. And I really shouldn't compare Green Lanterns to Nazis, but hey, it's 1,000 years. I don't know what could happen. But yeah, it's just actually quite interesting for a new book seeing a Justice League who, like, see how they work together as a team. Yeah, I know people were complaining instead of like, oh, it doesn't have the brouhaha and everyone's against each other. Well, yeah, no, that's what people were expecting because the writers were the same writers who made the interesting hit series back in the '80s known as Justice League International. And I think there will be brouhaha because I do have the original first issue. It's in my basement right now. It's in so many boxes. It's gonna take me a lot longer to dig just to prove it to you. But basically, I have read the first issue, and most of the characters weren't exactly as a team. Yeah, they worked together, but mostly half of them were basically assholes saying, "I could be a better team leader." Batman, and the famous scene of Batman punching Guy Gardner once in the face to knock him out. I always love that scene. Anyway, here it kind of has that feel. Yeah, it's dark and whatnot. Like things are much darker than you would expect, but it has kind of that dynamic brouhaha where they don't all trust each other. And I kind of hope that like as the series progresses, that the characters start getting used to one another, even though Superman's now a perverted narcissist. Batman thinks everyone sucks, and Wonder Woman is basically way more Amazon than people expect. uh, but yeah, it's kind of a neat introduction, and there really isn't much to it. You get to see them in action, plus the beginning of a subplot with a new character called Aerial Masters, who actually has a connection to this new Justice League. So basically, I would recommend buying this, mostly for the fact that it's its own thing, kind of like Earth 2 in a sense when you think about it. It's not exactly it's somewhat part of the main DC universe continuity, but at the same time, it's its own thing, which actually kind of makes good reading or bad depending on what you can find. But yeah, I think it's one of the better ideas that DC has come up with. So I suggest to pick this up if you're more interested in a much different Justice League book. Well, that's all I have for today, for this episode. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video. This is Ian Yoxon, your Canadian Comic Geek, signing off.